Hey home bakers, it's Jack here at bakewithjack.co.uk, bringing you your weekly bread making tip every single Thursday. And this week, your full start to finish simple yeasted loaf of bread tutorial. Roll that theme tune. Hello there and welcome back to the Bake with Jack YouTube channel, where I'm dedicating January 2020 to all you first timers out there. We've spoken about all the equipment that you need to make bread at home. We've spoken about why it's a great time to start making your own bread. And now the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time to crack your first triumphant loaf of bread. As always, if this video is helpful to you, please click that thumbs up button to let me know. And if you want to see more of my face every single Thursday, consider clicking subscribe. Now, before we begin, there's a very important thing to know, which is the temperature of my kitchen today. Today, my temperature of my kitchen is 21 degrees C, that's 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're not going to go too much into detail about this now because we've got bread to make, but the short version is temperature is important. If your kitchen is cooler than mine, things might take a little bit longer to puff up, and if it's warmer where you are, then things might happen a little bit quicker. That's all. If you want to read more about this topic, you can. I wrote a short blog post about it, and I'll link it up underneath about why temperature is important and what to do about it if you need to do anything at all. Now, here's a list of ingredients that you're going to need for the single, simplest of loaves of bread. Don't feel like you've got to weigh everything out because we're going to do it together in real time. We're going to weigh stuff all together exactly like you would do at home. I'm not going to weigh stuff into little tiny bowls like I was on a TV show or anything. I'm doing exactly like you're going to do it at home, and I'll show you that next. For this video, I'm not going to make one loaf, I'm going to make two loaves, so I'm going to double up the ingredients like this, as if by magic. Bing! Did you see that? That's quite clever, isn't it? The reason is because it takes the same amount of time to make two loaves as it takes to make one loaf, and that way I can show you the shaping up twice. If you decide to make two loaves at home, it's a really good idea because you're going to do the same amount of work and you get double the amount of shape in practice, and you can always freeze a loaf if you're not going to eat it straight away. We've spoken about the equipment that you need last week. In last week's video, I'll leave a list underneath as well. And as always, the recipe for this will be on the Bake with Jack blog. I'll leave a link under that too. That's enough talking. Without further ado, let's cut to the table. Come on. Okay, here we are at the table. And the first thing we're going to need to do is weigh, mix and knead our ingredients together. Now, apologies if everything's not right in the middle of the screen when I do this. I'll try my best, but I can't actually see it because my phone's knackered out. Okay, so let's just see how we get on. So here I've got my scales here on 0. I'm going to put my bowl on the top of it and put that back onto 0. And here in this box I've got my fresh yeast. Okay, I always use fresh yeast. You can of course use dry yeast, but I always use fresh yeast, and this is what it looks like. Keep it in a little box with a little bit of paper so it doesn't get too wet and start dissolving all over the place. I'm going to take 24 grams of this yeast. Okay, if you're using dry yeast, half the quantity or thereabouts. 2 7-gram sachets works really well. If you've already got it in a 7-gram sachet, just use 2 7-gram sachets of yeast. Or as a rule, half the quantity if you're using dry yeast. Now my water's here, it's room temperature water. We've spoken about that before, and my room today is 21 degrees, and so my water here is 21 degrees. I'm going to weigh it straight into the bowl on top of the yeast, which is a little bit risky, but I like a little bit of risk. So I've put the scales back onto 0. I can see that. I don't know if you can see that through the bowl, but I can see that from here. 640 grams of water, and a gram of water is exactly the same as a milliliter of water. You might be surprised to hear. It's just a little bit easier to do it this way. 641 grams, which is fine. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is mix these together. Okay, I want to get that yeast softened. If you've got dry yeast at this point, you want to make sure it's completely dissolved. If you're using fresh, as long as it's soft, it's okay, you know. As long as it's soft, it's good to go, because we're going to knead it anyway. It's all going to get kneaded through anyway. It doesn't really matter. This is just a gesture of a mixture. Okay, give that a little mix. Next, I put my scales back onto 0 again, and now in goes the flour. Strong white bread flour got here. Okay, a kilo of strong white bread flour. In it goes. In it goes. In it goes. Now you've got to be careful. It's a little bit tricky to get stuff out of the bowl if you put too much in. In this case, it's okay. We can just scoop some off the top again if I go over the amount we need. But this is the way I like to weigh stuff out, because there's no washing up really apart from this bowl, you know. We're just trying not to make a mess for ourselves. There we go. Next, scales back onto 0, and I'm going to put my salt in. 16 grams. Like this. Every time I weigh something new, I put it back onto 0. Because I could add it all up in my head, but at some point I'm going to get lost where I'm at. I'm going to have to work it all out again. That noise you can hear is an aeroplane. Isn't that wonderful? Olive oil goes in, okay? Technically, we could put this in after we mixed it, but, you know, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's only a small amount. 30 grams. Pop it in like that. Put that away. Now we get rid of these scales. So next I'm going to take my scraper and just mix it all up together. Remember, this is a kilo of flour. So it's going to be quite a big dough, but I feel like it's still manageable. Just going to turn the bowl, use the rounded edge of the scraper just to bring everything together. Get all that flour into the moisture, or all the moisture into the flour. Depends on how you look at it. Mix it all up like this. You can use the edge of your scraper to sort of cut the dough up, because as the water's going in, it's going to get tricky to get the last bit of dry flour into the mixture. So if you use the edge of your scraper, you can sort of cut it, and you're opening up a little bit of moisture here. A little wet bit that can then take on the rest of that flour. Okay, there we go. Now when I'm happy there's no dry flour left, I'm going to get it straight out on the table. Like that. Straight into the clean table, okay? No flour. No flour. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you'll know we don't put flour down here. We do not put flour. There's no flour. Zero flour on the table. Did I mention that before? No flour. I'm going to make this bowl nice and clean because I want to keep it. I want to put the dough back into it after. So I'll scrape it all out nice. Scrape my fingers a little bit. And then we can commence the kneading. Now for the kneading, it's really handy to use this flat edge of the scraper to bring everything back together on the table like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adopt the power stance, spread my legs slightly so I've got a nice rock solid foundation. And now with the heel of my hand, I'm going to push it up the table like this and bring it back over. Up the table, bring it back on top. Okay, just like this in a kind of circular motion like this. That makes sense. Now if you can see that there like this, I'll do it slowly like this. Okay, circular motion. Forwards, up and back, and give it a good lift up back. At this stage, everything's going to get a bit messy like this on the table, you see, like that. Don't worry, take the flat edge of your scraper, tidy it up a bit like this, and continue on. You're going to need the dough for 8 minutes, okay? 8 minutes. And at your style, I'm probably going a bit quick now because I'm a bit conscious of the video. But you can just sort of take it easy like this. 8 minutes, you'll be all good to go. Every once in a while, take the flat edge of the scraper and bring it back together nicely, and then continue on. One hand is a good idea so don't get the other hand messy as well, but just do what's ever comfortable for you to do. Literally, however you feel most comfortable, give your dough a bit of physical energy. Pushing it, folding it over on itself and pushing it again, not stretching too much, not tearing it, not pushing down into the table, getting all sticky. If you're heavy-handed into the table, you're going to get a real sticky mess. We've spoken about that before in another video. If you're light-fingered with it, you're going to be fine. Quite a nice thing to do actually, which I do actually, which I'll show you here. I wasn't showing you, it's here in my hand. Is set a timer like this, okay? So you can set your timer for 8 minutes from the beginning, leave it there. You can turn it the other way around so you can't see what you're looking at. Just go away into your special place in your mind, enjoy yourself with a little bit of kneading. And when it beeps, you're all good to go. 8 minutes total knees. Let's fade out and fade back in again when it's ready, shall we? Yeah. Yes. Okay, there we go. Now, as a rule, what I normally do at the end of 8 minutes, just leave it alone for a bit. You can see it's not smooth. You can see that, right? It's a little bit bumpy on the top like this, right? But this is okay. When I host a class, there's 8 of us. There's 8 of us making bread all together, and everyone's different style and technique and pace. 8 minutes is normally enough. Don't worry about what it looks like now. If we keep kneading this, trying to make it smooth, it's never going to get smooth because it's always under stress. What I'm going to do now is just leave it for, let's give it 2 minutes, because I've probably been chatting for a little bit. Let's give it 2 minutes. I'm going to just take my time cleaning my hands. If there's moist dough here, I'm going to add it back to my dough, okay? If there's anything dry, I don't want to do all this, rub all lots of dry crumbs all over the top, because that'll make little hard bits in our bread, which we don't want. If there's moist stuff on there, I'm going to put it there. What I'm going to do is just leave it alone for a little while and let it relax, right? And then we can make it into a nice smooth ball. So 8 minutes kneading, 3 minutes resting, then we'll make it into a ball and set it for its first rest. This is the hardest bit of work you've got to do all day, by the way. That 8 minutes is the hardest bit. And a few of you have mentioned in the past, every once in a while somebody says, oh, can you show me the kneading in real time? And I always thought that might be quite an interesting, long and boring video. But if you really want to see it start to finish in real time, that 8 minutes, we can put some music on or have a little chat or something. I'll make that video for you if you think it's helpful. Write in the comments. Just let me know if you want that video and I'll make it happen. That is the hardest bit of work you have to do all day. The rest is easy. We just sort of hang out a bit. We'll do a little shape up later. We'll hang out a bit more and then we'll pop it in the oven. It's really as simple as that. So take these 3 minutes to let the dough relax. Let yourself relax. You know, because you've put a lot of energy and love into this, and now it's just time to let it do its own thing. 8 more seconds on the clock. What else can I talk about? It's nearly finished. Let's go for the shaping. Yes! Okay, now we've kneaded it completely without any flour, and now flour is acceptable because we're just shaping it up. We've got to make our dough have a top and a bottom. That means a dusty side and a sticky side. We make this side dusty, this nice dome side here. And yours might be a nice round ball like mine, and it might not. It might be sticky all over the place, but don't stress out about it. I've done this a few times, and it's down to my technique, the natural way that I handle the dough, because I've had so much practice with it. Okay, so now I'm just a little dust on the top. Just that one side only. This is our dusty side. What I'm going to do now is take my scraper underneath like this, flip it upside down like that, and I'm going to ball it up nicely. Take a little piece from the edge, fold it over, right almost the way over to the edge. I've gone past the middle. Don't stop in the middle because you get this weird donut thing. Right over to the edge like this, like that. All the way around. Just stop when you're happy it's a ball. You can do this all day long because there's always another piece to take, but just stop when you're happy it's a nice ball. Roll it over, and now you've got your nice smooth top that we've all been looking for, okay? Now you're there, your nice smooth top. If you're any doubt whether it is ready at this point, there's a video that I made called the 5 signs when your dough is ready, or something like that anyway. But it's got there's 5 signs. You can do the test here or not. To be quite honest with you, I never do it. I do my 8 minutes to work. I do my 3 minutes rest. I ball it up like this. I put it into the bowl and I forget about it. It's as simple as that. I never check for the signs. A little bit of dust on the top just to stop it from drying out. It might sound like it will do the opposite, but it just traps any moisture that's going to try and leave. And then we get our magic Bake with Jack proving cloth. Pop it on the top. I'm going to leave it here to puff up for 1 hour, and while it is puffing up, it's going to develop flavour. The gluten that we've been working, that's the strength that we build up by kneading, is going to develop even further, completely transforming the flavour and the texture of our final bread. 1 hour rest here, minimum. Yes! Okay, here we are back an hour later. I hope you had a lovely rest. I did, actually. I edited the first part of the video, but we can see now it is clearly risen in an hour. It is well puffy, and that's exactly what we want to see. It means everything is working perfectly, and this right here is proof that the next time it rests, it is going to puff up. This is a bit where you celebrate already because you know it's going to be a success the rest of the time. If I flip it upside down quickly, oh, you see the bubbles before it falls out. It's looking really lovely. Healthy, puffy, wonderful. An hour has passed, and now it's time to get it out onto the table. So I've got a little flour pot here to accompany me and my dough and my scraper. I'm going to take it out for the divide and pre-shape. If you're just doing one loaf, you don't need to divide it first. Remember, I'm doing 2. So I've got to divide it and then pre-shape each piece. Now what I'm going to do is take the curved end of my scraper and just shimmy it down the side here just to loosen the dough from the bowl a little bit. I've dusted this one side, remember, the dusty side, so that when we get it out of the bowl, it's going to come out upside down onto that dusty side, sticky side up, and then it won't stick to our table. Now, because I'm doing 2 loaves, I've got to cut this in half. I'm just going to check it's not sticking, which it's not, which is wonderful. It's really light, really lovely now. Enjoy this part. When you get it out, it's looking really puffy and it's domed up. This is all the hard work you've put into it in combination with just letting it rest and do its own thing and the yeast puffing it up that makes it so wonderfully silky and soft and puffy. I'm going to take, oh, you know what, I was going to weigh them out, but I'm not going to weigh them out because I can't really be bothered. Doesn't really make that much difference, to be honest with you. I can do it by eye nicely into half like this. No one's going to judge me. Actually, they probably will judge me, but that's just how I roll. Cut it down the middle. Use a flat edge of the scraper all the way down. Push down into the table, peel the dough away, and you cut it into 2 pieces like this. And now with each piece, I'm just going to ball it up nicely, ready for the final shape later. I always do a pre-shape at this stage, which is this ball, to build extra structure for the final shape to come up nicely. All I'm going to do is push down with my fingers like this, with my knuckles like that, get rid of some of that gas, and I'm just going to work my way around exactly like we did earlier, folding a little piece over all the way around. You might hear some squeaking and popping at this point as you're losing some of that air out, and that's a good thing because you're firming it back up again, ready for the final puff. When the final puff comes up, everything's going to be a bit more uniform and really, really strong. It's going to rise up beautifully. So I'm just taking a little piece there, fold it over, a little piece there, that'll help me out as well. And just work my way around it like this, all the way around, making it nice and tight. Really building that tension on that top surface because that's what's going to hold the shape in the end. When you get to here, you can turn it over, you do a little bit of this cupping and turning action. This is the classic cup and turn. We call that the classic. This is your secret moves, yeah? The classic cup and turn like that. Squeeze your hands together underneath. Make it nice and round. Double tap. And we're all good to go. So listen, we're going to put that there with a little bit of flour on top. Actually, you know what I always do is when I'm making a video, I always put them right in the way of myself. It's not very helpful. So I'm going to put that there. You can still see that there. I'm going to put that there, so you see that there. Take the cloth, just pop that on top. That's going to sit there and rest for 15 minutes only, okay? Just sit and rest and relax for 15 minutes. The reason is, if I try and shake that up now, I've just built that tension, it's well tight and bouncy. It's not going to want to go to where I want it to go to. So we give it 15 minutes to relax. All the gluten, that elasticity will relax, and then I'll shape it up, ready for my loaf tin. In the meantime, I'm going to scrape the table down and prepare my tins. Okay, I've got a couple of loaf tins here. These are my go-to loaf tins. I'll leave the measurements there for you so you can see. I'll take my olive oil from earlier. I'm just going to put a little oil in here. If you're doing loaf for the first time, yeah, you don't want to risk it sticking to the tin. Just give it a light coating of oil or butter into that tin, just to do your best to ensure it doesn't get stuck in there. Use your hand. Wipe it all the way up the sides. Just a little thin coating, but everywhere. Okay, normally if I was at home, I'd probably risk it. I like a bit of danger in the kitchen, you know. But because we're on YouTube to 50,000 subscribers now, I better make sure it comes out nicely after a night. I'm happy with those. They're all done. I'll leave them there. I'll put them up out of the way. And then we'll come back to this dough 15 minutes. Let's have a look at our lovely doughs. Yes. Okay, so you can see, can you see that? Let's have a look. Yes, you can. You can see that they've spread out slightly. They're relaxed. If you feel your dough now, you'll notice it's much softer than it was. It was a real firm, bouncy ball, and now it's got a little bit of give, so we can do our final shape. Now I'm going to use the scraper to get underneath. Always using the scraper underneath. I never just pick it up off the table and stretch it away. Always get your scraper in, move it to your table the other way up, okay, so it doesn't stick to the table. If you need some dust underneath, you can do that, but never dust this bit here. It's sticky, and it's sticky for reasons because we need all the joins during the shaping to stick to one another. nicely. Okay, so now from here, I take my fingertips, push it down. I'm just pushing down. If I push this down like this into the table with my fingers, it's going to spread into a circle. It's going to get bigger naturally. Don't feel like you're trying to push it away and push it out, because if you do that, it comes back and you get this crinkly stuff. It all looks a little bit weird. Just push down firmly with your fingertips, with your knuckles if you want to, and let it spread where it wants to go. Now we've got this nice circle. We're going to check it doesn't stick to the table again, which is fine. And now, I'll take the two sides like that, put them out slightly, fold one over at an angle. I'll do that twice so you can see it with the other one. Fold this over the top at an angle as well, so we've almost got a triangle. Now I'm going to push it all back down nice and flat again. Okay, like this. Remember our tin, okay? If this bottom bit of your dough, if the width of this bottom bit is the length of your tin, you're good to go. You don't want it to be any longer, otherwise it's not going to fit in your tin at the end. In fact, if it's slightly shorter than your tin, that's even better. What we're going to do, push that down. We're going to roll it up nice and tight into a sausage. I did a video like this before, quite a thorough one actually. If you want to check that out, you can. You might not need to, but you might feel like you need to. And that's another aeroplane. Roll, push with your thumbs. Roll, push, just to tighten up. Roll, push, roll, push, roll, push. Get to the end. Squeeze up that seam so it sticks to itself. Now we've got a definite seam here. That's the underside of our bread. And we've got a nice smooth top where the tension is, which is going to hold a nice shape. I'm going to dust it all over now and on the ends, because that will help us so it doesn't stick to the tin. In it goes. Okay, one's in. Give it a little shaky. Make sure it's all cool and just leave it like that in its natural form. We're going to do the next one next. Clear the flour away again, because you need some grip. Scraper underneath. Flip it upside down. A little bit of flour if you need to. Pick up it from there if I want. Push down into a circle like that. Yeah, hear those squeaks? Those squeaks and those pops, it's just a few bubbles bursting. That's just a signal that we worked our dough really well in the first place. It's rested up nicely. It's really strong, ready for the next bit. Now, hands underneath, sideways like that. One over the top at an angle. Push it all back down flat, nice and firmly. Make sure all the time, make sure it doesn't stick to the table. If it's starting to stick, get your scraper under there, get a little bit of flour, shoot it underneath. Just make sure nothing's sticking. It'd be a real shame if it was. Take top flat down like that. Now roll, push, roll, push, roll, push, roll, push, roll, push, roll, push. Squeeze up that seam. And then we've got our loaf. Dust it really nicely actually. I can use that dust on the table, save some dust. Roll it all around in the dust like that. This one, I'm going to cut this one because I like it. I've been doing this a lot recently, I really like it. I've just got a serrated knife here. Do a few diagonal cuts, quite long ones. Yeah. That should look really nice when it puffs up. Pop that in there like that. Now you can see, like this one came out quite nice, okay? That fills the tin really nicely. This one, we've got dodgy area here. It's a bit skinny there, there's a bit of fat in there. And to be quite honest with you, I couldn't care less. It's going to puff up, it's going to fill the tin. It might be a little bit higher this side than that side, but hey, it's homemade bread. If it looked like I bought it in a shop, I may as well have just bought it in a shop. I'm going to leave those two there like that. Get my cloth and put it back on the top. I'm going to clean up this mess. I'm going to let this sit here for an hour. And while it is sitting here for an hour, within that hour, probably halfway through, I'll get the oven on. Start preheating the oven so it's nice and ready and nice and hot for when it's time to bake. See you in an hour. My, oh my, look how they've grown. Isn't that lovely? You can see at this point, after an hour has passed, that my dough has puffed up. My loaves are puffy. I'm going to put them in the oven. Let's talk a little bit about how we know when it's ready, but I don't want to spend too much time on this bit because in true Bake with Jack style, you're going to learn way more over time as you practice, as you bake and you bake and you bake again. That's where you learn about this stuff. You can learn way more than what I can translate to you across this video, but I'll do my best in the meantime. Now look, you can see this puffed up. I kind of want to tip it a little bit so you can see it's puffed up over the top of the tin, which is great. But at home you can't go by the size of it compared to mine, because your tin might be a little bit different, or your flour might have a little bit different qualities, making it stronger, allowing it to puff up more, or you may have kneaded it slightly differently, so it might puff up more or less than mine before it gets delicate. But the point is, everything starts off quite firm and bouncy, and when you put it in your tin, have a little feel of it when it's in the tin, and have a little feel of it an hour later and see how you're getting on. It's going to be softer. The more gas inside, the more it puffs and puffs and puffs, the more delicate it's going to become, until there's a point where it's well puffy, it's well fragile, and it's collapsed. And so a lot of people do this finger press test, and you can take this with a pinch of salt, because it's really subjective and it's down to the amount of experience that you have, how useful it actually is. The finger press test, people say that when you press it, it bounces all the way back, it's not ready for the oven. If you press it, it bounces a little way back, it's ready for the oven. If you press it, it doesn't bounce out at all, you're in danger of getting too delicate and you need to get it in the oven. And all this stuff is fine, but the point I want to make about it is, at this point, if this is your first loaf of bread, please don't stress out about it. Don't poke it 67 times thinking, is it ready, isn't it ready, I don't know. It's clearly puffed up here. It's clearly puffed. It has a little bit of bounce left, but it's definitely risen. If I bake this now, it's going to make wonderful bread. If I baked it 15 minutes ago, it would have made wonderful bread. And if I bake it 15 minutes from now, it's probably going to make wonderful bread. The window you can bake it inside is huge. So for now, if it's clearly risen and it's more delicate to the touch, get it into the oven, and then you'll learn when it comes out. And you'll learn next time and the next time and the next time. So I'm going to take these over to the oven now. We'll cut to the oven and I'll show you my little setup. Welcome to my kitchen floor. Here's my oven here, right? This is a fan electric oven. It's not posh, it's not fancy, it's just a straight up fan electric oven to get some lovely bread out of this. There's a baking stone on that shelf there. Don't worry about that. It's only there because it lives there. I'll never take it out. It just lives there forever, but you don't need one. It's not necessary. It's just there because it's there. I'm going to be baking this bread with steam. I'm going to use hot water out of this kettle here I just boiled, and I've got a deep roasting tray in there that I'm going to pour the water in. You can completely bake bread without steam. It's a nice touch if you feel like you want to do it. Try it with steam. It makes the crust better, makes the colour better, makes it rise up better, makes everything better, but you can do it without, so don't let that put you off. So it's time to load the oven. I've got my loaves of bread up here. Let's open the door. Get them both in nice and central. Be careful, don't slam them down onto that shelf because you might degas them and lose them. I'm going to get the hot water in that tray there. Ooh. Shut the door, keep all that steam in. Got a timer here. I'm going to set it for 40 minutes, start to finish. You might want to do it for 30 minutes and have a look. You might want to have a little look, have a little peep at 30 minutes, see what's going on. But in the meantime, just hang out. Look through your nice oven door. I've cleaned that for you. It's nice, isn't it? We can see it. It's better than TV. Check them out. Yes, loaf number 1 and loaf number 2. Now, in theory, they will just pop out of the tins. In theory. Yeah, check it out. I've got a cooling rack here. I'm going to put them straight into the rack. Nice. We can check the underside. It's a good idea. It's been 40 minutes and I'm confident in my oven that's going to be okay. It sounds nice and hollow. Now, depending on your oven, you might find that underneath there's a little bit of pale. You can hear this, listen to this. That's nice and toasty underneath. But if your underneath is a little bit pale, then you can just pop it out of the tin like this and put it back on the oven shelf like that and bake it for another 5 or 10 minutes. Or if your oven is noticeably hot on the top, hotter on the top than on the bottom, you might need to flip it upside down a little bit just to toast off that bottom bit. The same goes, if it doesn't come out of your tin, do not slide a knife down the side and try and wrench it out, because you're going to ruin your loaf. You'll leave a bit in there, it'll be a nightmare, it'll be a disaster. So just leave it in the tin, flip the tin upside down for a bit and bake it a little bit longer, and it should, with a few taps, come off nicely. So there's my 2 loaves. I'm going to let them cool down and then we'll have a proper look. And there you have it. 45 minutes later, I need to pick the kids up in a minute. This is nearly cool. It looks pretty nice, doesn't it? And the other one. What I'll do in a minute is I'm going to slice these up. I'm not going to slice them up. I'm going to take 1 slice off the end because they're still warm, and ideally I'd let them cool down completely before I cut them. But we haven't got a lot of time, so I'm going to slice the end off and take a slice off the end, and we'll see what it's like. But listen, can you hear that? Oh, nice and crusty, which is lovely. Smells amazing. We're smashing it with these camera angles today, aren't we? Check this out. Okay, let's go this way, shall we? I'm going to take the end off. Yes, it's still a little bit warm. Yes, it'll be a bit steamy inside still. Oh yes, super soft. Real lovely. See if I can get a slice off this warm loaf. Yes, a bit wonky, but there you go. How's that? Super soft on the inside, crunchy, crispy crust. Oh, delicious, absolutely delicious. Shall I do that thing? People always do this. It breaks my heart a little bit, but everyone does it. I don't know why. Looks like bread, tastes like bread. It's gonna make wicked toast. Oh yes! Oh yeah. Yes, and there we have it, the full yeasted loaf of bread, start to finish. It's been such a long day, I can't even remember what we're calling it now. I need to go and pick up the kids in a minute, but there's the finished loaf. If you have a go at it, let me know. Post out on Instagram using the hashtag #BakeWithJack so I can see, but not only just so that I can see, so you can go to the hashtag #BakeWithJack and see what everybody else is up to. You can post problems there, you can post your triumphs. I hope it goes really, really well for you. I've hoped you've learned loads of stuff in this super long video, not only about my amazing variety of camera angles that I'm able to produce these days. Listen, if you haven't clicked subscribe yet and you like this sort of video, consider clicking subscribe before you go. If you like this, if you enjoyed it, if it helped you, please click like before you go. It really helps me out more than you think. Thank you so much for being here for your weekly bread making tip. I look forward to seeing you next week for another one. See you later. And that's it for this week. Thanks so much for stopping by for your weekly bread making tip. I hope you got a ton of value out of this epically long video this week. Don't forget you can get the recipe. It's in full on the Bake with Jack blog, and I'll put a link in the description. You can find that there. And best of luck on your first epic loaf of bread. See ya.